Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
What's the creepiest family you've ever encountered?
When I was a kid, my family took me on holiday with this other family, and they were a single mom with a teen daughter and a 4-year-old son. The mom insisted the 4-year-old stay in a pram, a pushchair, while we were going around, even though he could walk, and she would literally chew his food halfway before feeding it to him. Just to recap, this boy was not at all disabled. His mom would not let him walk even holding her hand, and she wouldn't let him even chew his own food, let alone eat from a plate with a fork. He was not a baby, he was fucking 4 with no issues concerning his motor skills. That woman is creepy as F.
A car I had about 10 years ago broke down. Couldn't find the part online, none of the local auto parts stores could help me, until I found this auto graveyard near Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Drove close to an hour to get there, and then they tell me they were wrong and didn't have the part, but gave me directions to a place that might. I then drove to an auto wrecker outside of Addison, Pennsylvania. Deep in the woods. I walked in to the office. Sitting in the corner was an old man drooling and babbling to himself. A girl who might have been pretty if she had all her teeth and fingers was working the desk. I explained what I needed, and then a man walked in. Angry looking, about 6 foot, and shaped like a goddamn pancake. Looking straight on at him, you may have guessed he was 300 to 350 pounds, but when he turned to the side he was only about a foot thick. He got my part, let me choose my price, and then the family all started to crowd around me. I thanked him, and quickly asked for business cards, saying I could send more people to him. The family backed off. He handed me business cards. I left with the quickness. Threw the cards away, and will never go back.
Not my story, but my dad's. He lived in Glenrock, Wyoming for a little while as a kid. He was maybe 9 or 10 years old. During that time, he lived next to a weird family of hillbillies. The father in particular was a strange one. He used to chase after my dad and uncle with a wrench and was generally very violent. One time my dad went to their home and he told me he remembered seeing that the kids were all living on the floor, shitting on newspapers. Generally just horrific conditions for a family. The mom was either dead or never around. Fast forwards about 20 years. A cold case for the murder of Lisa Kimmel is reopened when they link it back to a man named Dale Wayne Eaton. My uncle phones my dad and tells him to look at the news. It was the guy he lived next to as a kid. Apparently, he buried Lisa's car in his backyard to hide the evidence, and the one identifier that it was her car was the Little Miss license plate. Actually insane.
I grew up in a town that had a ton of families who gave their kids performance, growth-enhancing drugs and created a recruitment network to bring way overqualified people in to teach and coach their kids without having to send them to a private school. I can give a few stories if anyone's interested, and I'm not just shouting into the void. Basically, there was a whole community of families who had created a network of doctors to give them HGH and more exotic treatments. I knew of a whole class of students who were on nootropics for at least a semester, and leveraged their dominance of the local voting base to exploit school funding so they could get a magnet school-like experience at a fraction of the cost, because it all came out of their property taxes anyways and was only a minimal extra charge, all things considered. These people ran the town. On my free period, loner idiot, so I'm hanging out in the hallway listening to video game original soundtracks. An AP math teacher walks by me on their way to lunch, says I can't be in the hallway on my own because of school safety rules. I lived near where Columbine happened, so they were anal about that. Tell her I would rather not sit on my own in the library where other people are studying. They know me a bit, so they're aware that I'm just a spurg. Gives me the option of hanging out in the teacher's lounge for my free period or having to suffer through the potential of socializing. What the fuck ever, I follow them there. Sitting in the corner being awkwardly quiet. Teacher looks uncomfortable too, asks me about classes to break the silence. Get to talking about math. I'm terrible at math. Ask if it's ever confusing for them. A stupid question regardless in hindsight.
No. I used to work on modeling where Scuds were being launched from based on satellite data as a defense contractor. We had to design all those algorithms from scratch.
Sort of confused, I asked them why they started teaching a high school math class.
A former officer I knew offered me a job here with better pay.
Weirded out, the teacher looks concerned for a moment and then goes back to eating. Went back to listening to original soundtracks with my headphones. Later found out most of the higher level teachers did not have a teaching background. 1 out of 3 that I think are worth mentioning. Junior year of high school, a bit more social, so I now sit with people during lunch at least. Dude I didn't know very well takes a bottle of pills off his backpack and gulps one back. Still a spurg, so I fixate on it and have a spaghetti moment. Ask him what that was about. Says they're to help with focusing. Feel like an ass for asking and shut up. A few weeks later, see a girl in the commons area take a similar looking pill. A few days after that see someone else. And another. And another. Autism senses activate. Realize they're all taking these pills around 12:30. Bring it up to a few people I met. They think it's probably just Adderall or something else for ADHD and I'm weird for asking about it. Keep noticing people taking pills. Start to think there must be an ADHD problem at the school. This next part is entirely second-hand. I never witnessed this personally. Bring it up to a stoner dude I knew in my marketing elective. Laughs and says those aren't Adderall. Tells me about how a Chinese girl from school gave him a few at a party. Made him trip balls. Assume he's trying to mock me and brush it off with a comment. He keeps insisting that it's true. Share a class with her in the next period and she asks to leave at right around 12:30. Coincidence? There are no coincidences. After some extremely awkward introductions, I find out that she and the guy the first knew at lunch are in the creative thinking class together. No one else I ask knows what that class is. The teacher who teaches it only teaches that one class apparently. Desire to know more. JPG. Talk to the school counselor about taking it next semester. You need to be selected for it. I wouldn't know more about what was going on there until my senior year when I took a strength training class. I'll try to sum it up in the next post. Deadlifting with my gym partner. One of the only other weak non-athletes in that class. Guys next to us are lifting heavy for high schoolers at least, probably 4 to 5 plates. Dude can't make it, fails several times and gives up on the lift. One of the gym teachers comes over, grills him on if he's keeping up with his routine. Says he'll be calling his parents after class. Sort of a weird happening. Definitely got the attention of a few people and it becomes a minor piece of gossip that spreads around the school. Got to know the guy who failed the lift later that semester while helping out with sports team stuff. I'm actually still friends with him on Facebook. Bring it up to him one day and ask why his coach freaked out about it. Gets quiet for a moment, then asks me to not share what he's about to tell me. I have now failed at that. Says a few guys on the team are on HGH and anabolic steroids, they get them from a doctor in town. Coach is in on it and wants to make sure they don't run into any problems with college recruiters. Apparently a lot of people in that school get performance enhancers because their parents ask or know people according to him. Make the connection that whatever was going last year probably came from the same place. Don't bring it up again. Last one. Shortest of the 3. Ran into an acquaintance from school in a community college class a year after graduating. Group up with him for a project. While working on it he brings up that a large group of people from our school went off to do better things after graduation. Thanks asshole. Says the only Guy he knows of that didn't got stuck in civil court cases. Never heard about this. Ask him if he did something over the summer after graduation. Says he was a serial assaulter. The fuck? Guy had assaulted like 4 of our classmates, some in school and some at parties. Administration knew. He was an adult when word of this got out, so I'm shocked no news outlet has reported on it. Apparently his dad was paying for some of their silence, and it wasn't until word got out that hell started to be raised and they got sued. Somehow it never became a criminal case. Local police kept it quiet. Serial assault guy is still free. I'm kind of dubious about this one. Another person I brought it up to said they had heard something similar, but I just don't believe anyone could get away with that, or that even the most CIA parents have that much control.
Man, I've been wanting to tell the story of my neighbors for a while now. I live in a rich gated neighborhood. A few houses down there's a family of religious fundamentalist Baptists. I'm not sure how that happens because Baptists usually don't take the scripture very seriously. But these people act like Catholics or something. I'm a Christian myself, Orthodox. But the way these people operate is just abusive and has really made me question whether I want to get married. They have 4 children, 3 girls, and a boy. The oldest is 16. The youngest is the little boy, who is 5. The 16-year-old was really interested in becoming friends with me even though I am older, so I'd hang out with her sometimes. Everyone believes she is autistic, but it was just how she was raised. I have to be very careful having conversations with her because she doesn't know a lot about basic things. She doesn't know that gay people exist. She didn't learn the word crap until she was 15, and she thinks it's on par with words like fuck, so I have to be careful not to say it. She told me about her crush at school, and says she likes him because he looks like her father. Major fucking red flags. She seems to take on the role of mother number 2. Like I said, we live in a very safe gated community, but the other girls, 14 and 12, are not allowed to be outside without the 16-yo. If the kids run out the door without the 16 years old, the 16 years old gets beaten. She seems to take on all the sins of the other children, and is so brainwashed that she doesn't question it. Every now and then the kids will say something extremely concerning about their father. If they create art that he thinks is bad, he gets angry and destroys it. They aren't allowed to be barefoot outside because they look homeless. Even his wife gets a similar treatment. I remember her working on this beautiful flower garden, only for it to get destroyed by her husband because it was ugly to him. When this girl leaves for college, she is undoubtedly going to be abused more, probably assaulted, and overall just taken advantage of by everyone in her life because she's so naive and brainwashed. Mentally, she's about 12 years old, with all the responsibilities of a mother, and none of the freedoms. Absolutely sickening. Her father makes no attempt to protect her from what she actually needs protection from. There's this creepy old man that lives near us who literally touches her in front of her father, and he does jack shit about it. I'm also worried about the youngest, the boy. He's 5, but I'd put his speech development at the 2-year mark. He is also physically the size of a 3-year-old, making me think maybe they don't feed him enough. I think they beat him too, which doesn't make any sense to me. The kids don't understand language, yet they expect him to understand why he's being put through physical torment. I would call CPS, but I was beaten as a child as well, and I know damn well CPS doesn't do anything.
Not creepy paranormal, but this was creepy to me. When I was a senior in high school, I was hanging out with my friend who needed to drive to his girlfriend's house to do something. I don't remember why we needed to stop by. We went in the house, and her parents were really sizing me up for a minute and then told me to wait in another room. It was a TV room in the back of the house. The girlfriend's little sister was in there playing video games. She was probably 10 or 11. We didn't say anything to each other. I just watched the screen while my friend talked to the parents, I guess. The parents closed the door, and I was feeling kind of left out. I thought my friend was having some secret conversations with them about something I wasn't privileged enough to know about or some shit. About 15 to 20 minutes went by and the mom opened the door and came in the room. She got real close to me and hugged my arm and whispered in my ear.
So what do you think?
And I said, about what? And the mom nodded at the little sister. I said, what do you mean? And she was like,
Did you guys get a chance to talk?
and then I started to get real uncomfortable because I was starting to catch on. I don't remember how the conversation went after that, but I eventually rushed out and grabbed my friend. Still to this day I'm not sure if he was in on the parent scheme, and I still can't figure out how the parents thought setting up their child with basically a grown adult was a good idea.
How old were you? They were probably really old school and wanted to marry their daughter off to someone they knew would be good or something. Still pretty crazy for nowadays.
I was 18. I had never met the family before either.
Yeah, they probably liked your friend and they were probably asking him stuff about you while you were waiting. Also, by the time she's 18 you would be 25, which is not that weird, I guess. What's really weird is how she expected you to talk and start forming any type of romantic relationship with her when she was 11.
Be me. One day, I go to a small outdoor concert in a park in my town. Then I see my ex's dad and mom and her little brother. I'm like, oh shit. A bit later I see her with the rest of the family. A little bit later, when she is no longer with them but with two of her friends, I go talk to her to ask what's up, as we haven't talked in a year and kinda wished we stayed friends with hindsight. She says she doesn't recognize me and doesn't know me. I ask her name. She has the same name as my ex. Then I literally show her a picture of my ex's profile picture where she was playing guitar in a concert, asking if it really wasn't her. She has the same skin marks, moles and everything, literally a 1:1 copy. She says it's not her. I'm like, now you are joking, stop messing with me, whilst laughing a bit. She insists it isn't her. Anyway, I leave deeply confused, and as I walk away, I can hear in the back her friends asking her, do you know him? And she replied to them with something like, no, I have no idea who he is. Few years later, I meet back my ex in the street. She says, hey, with a little smile as we pass each other by, and I reply something like, oh, so you talk to me again now, in a passive-aggressive manner, and she was like, oh, ick. Anyway, a bit later I send her a text and we start chatting a bit again. She is now with another guy, but we kept contact and became really close friends. Few months later, I ask her about that night in the park, if she was lying about not recognizing me for some reasons. She says she never was at that concert and wasn't even in that town. I'm deeply confused. Not only that girl at that place was an exact replica, even with the voice and gimmicks, she had the same first name, didn't ask last name, and her whole fucking family was a doppelganger down to the smallest mole and clothing. To this day I still wonder about that exact replica of her and her family. How is it even possible?
Family that lived a couple blocks from me. Grew up in a sort of islet suburb that only had a couple blocks developed and literal fields around it for miles. Anyways, the house at the end of the court on the very outskirt of the burb was where this very creepy family lived. Got dark vibes from the house when I would walk past it. Temperature was always a lot cooler the closer to the house you got. Rumor was the family that lived there were devil worshippers. Grandma sold her soul or some shit as a teen and sacrificed a baby to Satan. She married a dude and had kids. Kids married and had kids. Multi-generational home. Dead eyes and creepy look about them in general. The top room would have red lights emanating from it at night. People that lived in the immediate neighborhood would have sleep paralysis every night. Was dicking around in a field close to their home one day. Red pentagram on the ground and some bones in the vicinity. Noped the fuck outta there.
I have one question for the viewers. Have you ever encountered another family that just seemed off?
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.